Hello everybody and welcome back. As always, I am Mateo311 and this is your one channel for everything VR related. Today, I thought it was about time to get in the Halloween spirit and go over my favorite scary VR games. Now, I'll admit that I do not play a lot of VR horror titles. Jump scares are not for me, and I'm also quite impatient, so walking simulators with no real story progression aren't really my style. That being said, the average horror fan should enjoy every game on this list. I'll order them from my least to most favorite titles, but also include a fear factor score. This video includes games from all major VR platforms, and there are of course links and timestamps in the description, but before we jump in, this video is brought to you by Kiwi Design, your one-stop for all VR accessories. Are you looking for a Quest 2 Elite strap that won't suddenly snap on you? Or a face pad that won't irritate your skin? Well, Kiwi has you covered. They carry a large array of accessories from cable management systems to replacement facial covers. There are links in the description, and don't forget to use my affiliate code to help support this channel. Okay, so number one on our list is Wraith the Oblivion Afterlife. While this title definitely has some highs and lows, ultimately it wasn't for me. The slow burn intro, followed by an ever-increasing fear factor, led me to eventually abandon this game. That being said though, aspects of the storyline and in-game mechanics are interesting, as you are playing as an undead spirit, and if you're someone looking for a truly terrifying title, well, you have one right here. From a fear factor standpoint, this is easily one of the scariest games on today's list. I'm sure some people will disagree with that notion, so feel free to blast me in the comments. Okay, so number two on the list is the psychological horror, The Blair Witch. What starts with an investigation for a missing child turns into a nightmarish manifestation of psychological trauma. It's not the scariest of titles, but definitely has its moments, and it does a good job making you question what you're actually seeing. The environment also has an excellent impact in VR, so if you're more interested in storytelling than jump scares, go ahead and check out The Blair Witch. Number three on our list is Layers of Fear. While I said I didn't enjoy walking simulators, I found this title oddly intriguing. This is another psychological horror where you watch an artist descend into madness. Overall, it's not very scary, but it does have a tense atmosphere throughout the entire title, and to date, this game has given me one of the worst jump scares I have ever experienced in my entire life. Now, if you've played through this title and didn't experience that jump scare, maybe you heeded the game's warning that said don't turn around. Now, another game that's sort of a psychological horror that I thoroughly enjoyed was Westworld Awakenings. Gameplay-wise, it's very similar to the flat-screen title Outlast, and it has a truly authentic and absolutely fantastic Westworld storyline. Unlike some other titles, the in-game mechanics matched up perfectly with the game's storyline. There's a reason for continually getting killed, why enemies can seemingly track you across vast distances, and also why enemies might be surprisingly dim-witted at certain moments. If you were a fan of Outlast or the Westworld series, I highly recommend this title. Okay, so we're moving out of psychological horrors and into a bit more action. The next title up is Lies Beneath. Lies Beneath is truly immersive with its comic book style cel-shaded graphics and excellent spatial audio. You won't feel as vulnerable in this title because you're packing some heat and mowing down enemies. While the overall atmosphere remains a bit tense, the game isn't that spooky until you run into some of the larger creatures. So if you're looking for an action-oriented horror-themed title, Lies Beneath is a great option. Now, if you're looking for something that's even darker, creepier, and has some more action, well then you want The Persistence. This creepy, roguelite, DNA harvesting, derelict space station title is absolutely fantastic. With DNA cloning machines on the fritz, your space station is constantly pumping out some unique creatures. You can harvest their DNA for resources or scavenge throughout the ship, but ultimately you're just trying to survive each level of this space station. From a fear factor, it's downright creepy and tense, but it's more about the atmosphere and knowing that you can die and lose progression at any moment. Graphically, this is a stunning title, and it's one of the most unique horror games on today's list. But our next title is another unique roguelite, and that's In Death Unchained. Now, this is another one of those titles that isn't very scary. Besides some of the creatures, the atmosphere, and the imminent threat of death around each corner, this game is more tense rather than scary. It does, however, have an absolutely fantastic gameplay loop and super intense boss fights. Next on our list is Jurassic World Aftermath, which again isn't a very scary title, but delivers an all-around phenomenal package. It features excellent graphics for the Oculus Quest, immersive environments, great storytelling, and the velociraptors can be quite frightening. The cat and mouse hide and seek mechanic never seems to get old, and the dinosaurs will still sneak up on you every once in a while. So if you're an Oculus Quest user and you're looking for something exciting to play that's not too scary, or you're just a big fan of Jurassic Park, then you should put this game on your list. It's a 2-part series, so you don't have to invest all in. You could play the first one, and if you're looking for more, go ahead and pick up the second title. I am actually giving away a copy of Part 1 and Part 2 to a random Discord member, so go ahead and join in the link in the description. Okay, so let's move on from these less scary short titles with some of the best that the PlayStation VR has to offer with Resident Evil 7. Resident Evil 7 was a huge departure from the game's long-running history. Rather than exploring an area with a high contagion outbreak and mowing down hordes of zombies, you're trapped in a mansion with some truly freaky individuals. VR takes full advantage of this, letting your captors get right up in your face and giving you a front row seat to some truly gruesome encounters. While it does have the occasional jump scare, it's more about that tense atmosphere and horrific visuals. This is not only a must-play title for horror fans or fans of the franchise, as it's easily one of the best VR games available. Now, while it's an amazing game, it's not my favorite horror title. While you might disagree with me, I still put The Walking Dead: Saints and Sinners above Resident Evil 7. The absolutely brutal physics-based combat is unmatched in any other horror title. On top of that, the game has a suspenseful atmosphere, excellent graphics, an interesting storyline, and some cool survival mechanics. The single-player campaign was just recently expanded, giving you more bang for your buck, and I find this title to be the perfect level of scariness. It's not too scary that I dread turning the game on, but at the same time, it's just scary enough that I need to limit my gameplay sessions to around an hour or less. Anything over that, I start to get a little bit too tense. But overall, this game delivers an amazing experience, but not quite enough to take my #1 spot. Now, before we get to my #1 spot, I wanted to briefly go over a bunch of other horror games that I either never got to, outright refused to play, just weren't for me, or weren't good enough to make it on my list of favorite horror games. I'm going to rapid fire through these, and the first two are free titles, starting with Propagation VR. It's basically a creepy, great-looking wave shooter that you could jump in, battle some zombies, and even some other creatures. For the low price of free, it's definitely worth checking out, and if you love it, there's a co-op DLC for $9.99. The second free title is Shattered Lights, which will have you pacing around your room, as this is a fully free locomotion title. You'll wander around some creepy rooms searching for stuff and experience some occasional jump scares. Again, it's easy to recommend at the low price of absolutely nothing. Next up is another creepy wave shooter, the Brookhaven Experiment. It's a classic VR title from 2016 and a little hard to recommend at $19.99, but if you're just looking to immediately jump into the action or play stuff in a party style mode, it's definitely a good option. Okay, so next up is Hinge VR, which is actually another title I abandoned due to some bugs and performance issues. It was a great looking title with an interesting storyline, but ultimately I couldn't get past those initial issues. It has received some updates, so it might be worth revisiting, but it's not high on my priority list right now. Next up is Dreadhalls, a fan favorite horror title that I just never got around to. Wander around procedurally generated levels and listen out for trouble around every corner. Surviving this dungeon is no easy task. And from the same studio, we have Cosmosdread. This time the horror takes place on a space station, but at least you have some weapons to fight back. It's a survival horror roguelike with a dark and creepy atmosphere. Next up are some titles I avoided playing, including The Exorcist Legion VR and Five Nights at Freddy's. The Exorcist is an older VR title, and when I first started playing VR, I just could not handle horror at all. I gave it a try, but ultimately gave up. The game is separated into 5 chapters, which can all be purchased separately, and they're all roughly 30 minutes of you trying not to poop your pants as you explore some horrific environments. Now, Five Nights at Freddy's is a title I have no interest in ever playing. I played through the flat screen games and have come to the conclusion that I absolutely hate jump scares. Putting myself through that in VR is something I'm not interested in. I know this is a fan favorite title, so I had to include it, but currently I pretend this game doesn't exist. Okay, there are just 2 more major titles that I didn't include because they are mods. The first one is the Mother VR mod for Alien Isolation, which is an absolutely beautiful and equally terrifying game. While the gameplay is similar to Jurassic World Aftermath, the Alien Isolation mod puts that to shame. So I highly recommend you check this one out, and also the Bioshock Return to Rapture mod for Half-Life Alyx. Half-Life Alyx itself can be extremely creepy at times, but the Return to Rapture mod is a true horror experience. It's great for Half-Life fans, Bioshock fans, and anyone looking for a dark, creepy shooter. Okay, so that was my rapid-fire extended list. I'm sure I missed a few recommendations. Let me know which ones down in the comments. But here it is, guys, my number one favorite horror title, and that's Phasmophobia. There's no denying that co-op titles are absolutely fantastic in VR, and Phasmophobia has the perfect blend of socialization, gameplay mechanics, large player base, and an equal combination of laughing out loud and peeing your pants. I have had so much fun playing this title with my other VR buddies, and I highly recommend this experience to everyone. Since launch, the developers have continually added content, stamped out bugs, and just continued to make the game better. Now, while that was my favorite VR horror title, we're not done yet. Don't go anywhere, because I want to talk about one more game that's coming next week: Resident Evil 4. That was a terrible impression, but the game is releasing on the Oculus Quest next week. I will have a review up at release, and let's just say I think you guys should be excited for this one. Okay, everybody, that was today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, and as always, I will see you guys on next time.